Oh, and
All right, we'll give everybody a few minutes here. It is cold outside today. That's fine. I wasn't expecting to make a profit. Three, six, three, seven. Okay. All right. Do we have everybody on? Let's see. Okay. Welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome. Today we're going over contracts, and we're just going to go over some basics here with contracts. So I am in right now what's called form simplicity. Some of you might be familiar with it. Some of you, this is brand new. So form simplicity is going to be the most efficient way for you to send contracts back and forth to your clients. And we're going to start here by just starting a new transaction. And I'm just going to call it 123 ABC Street. We're going to click same as address, property type, we'll say residential, and this one will be, we'll go ahead and say this one's a purchase. Now down here, we have some packages for you that you can use just to kind of start, getting your file ready. So if we're going to be purchasing, that means we're representing the buyer. So we're going to use an offer package. Create transaction here. And there you go. Bam. Now, so we have the e-file ready to go, and you can edit some of the information here if you'd like. You can type in the MLS ID and save the data. Now, when we come down here, bear with me 1 second. So when we come down here, the first thing we're going to work on getting when we're working with a buyer, obviously, is the buyer broker agreement. So that's not in here. We're going to add blank form. Go to add blank forms. And we're going to go to all libraries. We're going to type in buyer broker. And the one that you're looking for, and everyone knows you need a buyer broker agreement now to work with any buyer in the state of Florida before making an offer. So before making an offer, before showing properties, you need to be getting an exclusive buyer broker agreement, transaction broker. This specific one, there's a couple different ones here, but this is the specific one that you need. Exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, transaction broker. So we're going to add that to the transaction. I'm going to fly through this one because this one is super simple. And I really want to get into the actual contracts between buyer and seller. But this one's pretty straightforward. You're going to just put the consumer's name, John Doe. It's already got the brokerage's name. It's not my name. It's Royal Realty. This agreement will start, we'll say today's day, and it's going to go for 1 year. So we go December of 2025 and try to get a year-long contract. Now, with this information here, the type of property, you want to be as general as possible. So I just put SFR, single family residential. And then location, I'll put Florida. So any single family residence in Florida. Now, all of this is just disclosures, broker obligations, consumer obligations. This is a bilateral contract. But the part that you guys need to fill out is actually down here. So you can use this buyer broker agreement for working with buyers, but also working with renters. So I had an agent yesterday call me, needing help on one of these for a renter that she's working with. And so she's charging $250 non-refundable retainer fee upfront, which she'll receive at the time of executing this contract with her tenant. And then down here, she put that she's going to be collecting $500 when this client successfully rents a property. So that can either come from all from the tenant, it can come all from the landlord, or it can come from a mixture of both. But at the end of the day, she's going to be making $750 working with this person. Now, for a standard buyer, for me personally, I don't charge a retainer fee, but I do make sure I get my full 3%. And so that's what mine looks like, just like that. And I don't get crazy. I don't charge cancellation fee. It says if left blank, so I put if left blank, then 30. I put 30. I don't charge a cancellation fee. If they want to cancel at any time, they're allowed to cancel. Other than that, there's nothing else to this contract that you guys really need to fill out. So keep it simple. I always tell my clients, listen, if at any point in time you want to cancel, you can cancel. All this agreement does is it allows me to work with you and show you properties. And if you don't like me or you don't want to pay a commission, then we will figure that out. Later. At no point in time am I going to force you to pay me a commission. Bada bing, bada boom. Any questions on that? Just going over that real quick.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Wait, am I on mute? No, right?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. No, I was just gonna say, I wanted to do this for a couple of people. However, I wasn't gonna put a year long. Any other recommendation, like months, just
Months.
because they look a little bit on the edge, like, oh, well, I'm not ready just yet to buy houses, but like I want to look though.
Um,
I don't really want to show them anything yet, but I want them to feel like a contract officially states like, okay, we're like moving into that process. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so what was the question was about the
Like
dates?
the months. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
So
I was thinking like maybe like 5 months, 6 months or something like that.
well, you said they're not necessarily ready now, right?
Like they they're ready, like they would be ready to buy, but they're just hesitant because of like the market, because it's, election season's coming up. So they're like, well, I don't know what the changes are gonna be next year when Trump takes office. So like I just want to wait around kind of thing. So like
Well,
they would be
I beg you,
uh-huh.
what I would say is, especially with a client it's like that, you really want to get the year-long contract.
Okay.
Don't create an objection if there isn't one. If they're not objecting to a year-long contract, then don't try to change that because, if they're not ready to go right now, then you're going to need this year-long contract. Because if they wait 6 months before they start to look, then,
Mm-hmm.
before they get really serious, you'll be outside of the contract if you make this a shorter contract. But up to
Mm-hmm.
you. At the end of the day, it's up to your discretion, right? There's no one size fits all. For me,
Mm-hmm.
what I tell them is I just do a year so we don't have to redo any paperwork. At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
you can cancel this, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer, whenever you want. There's a $0 cancellation fee. I'm not going to handcuff you to this contract. This
Right.
I
Okay.
legally have to do this. For me, I changed nothing about my business. My entire career, I've never forced a buyer to work with me if they didn't want to. So this is the
Got
same thing. It's just in writing.
Got you. Okay. So let's say like, okay, I'm working with a buyer, right? Or um an investor, let's say like they're looking for properties and stuff like that. I make them sign this, I send it over to them, and then that's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. That's it as far as in buyer representation,
Mm-hmm.
because it has all of the disclosures in here. It has your commission in here. So this is all you really need to be above board legally when working with buyers.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's more, once they find a property.
Right, 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 right.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. This is it. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Um, I don't overcomplicate it when I talk to them. Like, listen, I have to do this. The
Mm-hmm.
state of Florida requires realtors to do this now. Um, but at any point in time, if you're not happy or you want to cancel, you can cancel. I will not force you to work with me if you don't want to. I'm like, I'll
Mm-hmm.
even write it here, right here, if you want me to. Like, it already kind of says that right here. But if you want me to
Mm-hmm.
reiterate it, I will. If it's a like, I don't create an objection if there isn't one. So if there's
Mm-hmm.
no objection, then I never even have that conversation. But if they start to go, oh, I don't want to be bound to a contract, that's when I start having that conversation.
Got
Most
you.
most people are going to sign this and not even question. I mean, like 25% people might go, oh, I don't want to, be under contract. I don't want to be under contract.
But you also have to sign this if somebody's gonna sell their house, right?
No, that's different. So this is just
Oh,
for the buyer. So this is exclusive buyer broker agreement.
uh-huh.
So when somebody wants to sell their house, then that is a listing agreement.
Got you. Okay, 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 okay.
Now, if they want to also buy a home, then you would also need this, right?
Got
Selling their house
you.
and buying one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. All right. Any more questions? Good here. Okay. Now we're going to go to writing the offer. So as you see, it did not populate in here. So we got to go find it. We go to all libraries and it's called an as is. It's the as is residential contract for sale and purchase. So we're going to add that to the transaction. And it is right here. I'm just going to bring it up top. See it? HOA. Okay. So some of the most common ones that you're going to need when you're making an offer with a client is obviously going to be your as is contract. This is between the buyer and seller, right? This is what we're offering and the terms. We're also going to need most commonly an FHA or a VA addendum. If your buyer is conventional, then you obviously, or cash, you obviously don't need this. But a majority of buyers are going to be FHA or VA. So you're going to need this addendum here, this rider. The other most common one is going to be your HOA disclosure. So this is commonly filled out and provided by the listing agent. Obviously your buyer should not be signing or initialing this if it's not already filled out by the seller, right? Because it's the seller disclosing that there's an HOA. Lead-based paint, same thing. If the house was built before 1978, then you're going to need the lead-based paint disclosure. Also needs to be filled out by the seller before your buyer can initial it. Same thing with the seller's property disclosure. Also needs to be filled out by the seller before your buyer can initial it. Now, if you have a client who is FHA or VA, you do not need the appraisal contingency addendum because the FHA VA addendum already has that verbiage in there that it's contingent upon appraisal. However, if you are working with a conventional buyer or a cash buyer and they want it to be contingent on the appraisal, then you're going to need an appraisal contingency addendum. Other than that, if your buyer, like we discussed a minute ago, needs to sell their home first before they buy, then you need a sale of buyer's property rider as well. Basically making that offer that you're giving the seller contingent upon the sale of the buyer's property. Any questions with the documents that we need? I'm going to go into detail, but I just want to make sure we understand. Obviously, you're going to need the as is, most commonly the FHA, the HOA, the lead-based paint, the seller's disclosure, appraisal contingency, and sale of buyer's property. And pop quiz, anyone know where you will find these addendums that need to be filled out by the seller first? It's here in the matrix. So when you're in the matrix, like let's say your client wants to make an offer on a home, right? So you're going to go to that listing on the MLS. You would type it in right here. And you'd go to the listing, you'd get all the information, or you're going to get the agent's contact information. You're going to need, your client's going to want to see some of this stuff. You're going to want to make sure you check for a CDD. Is there a CDD? Okay, yes, it's that much a year, that kind of stuff. But also, when you're going to find the disclosures, you're looking for this paper clip right here. Everybody see that paper clip? So if we click this paper clip, this is a new construction home, so it's not going to have it. Let me try to find one. It's going to all be new construction. Here we go. Oh, nope, they don't have a paper clip. Now, if they don't have a paper clip, that means you need to request the documents from the listing agent. Also doesn't have a paper clip. All right. A lot of agents are not, a lot of people have a license, but not every licensee is a professional. So let's find price decrease. Maybe some of these will have one. Here we go. These people have a paper clip here. So we go here. We've got the HOA disclosure and the seller's property disclosure. So we would download these documents to our computer. These are already filled out by the seller. So, this document here is just the seller sharing everything they know about the property, and it needs to be initialed by the buyer before or at the time of making the offer. Make sense? Okay. So we would download those to the computer and upload those files here. And then we would plug in the seller's initials. All right. Now I'm going to go into detail. And I understand, guys, that I'm kind of going over everything, pretty quickly. You're not going to understand all of this the first time you see it. You're not going to understand it all the second time or the third time or the 10th time or even the 100th time. But, you know, my goal here is to expose you guys to it as many times as possible. So you pick up something new every time. You know, you're not going to be an expert on this until you've done it 1,000 times. So don't worry too much about having it all. Just try to retain as much as you can. So what we're going to go over right now is the as is residential contract. Um, this is the contract that you use for your buyer to make an offer on a property. Now, there's a little trick here. So this is the contract. There is a little trick here. If I could just get my screen to disappear. There we go.
You
Um,
said this is a contract to what?
for
Like,
your buyer to make an offer.
okay, okay, okay.
So there's a trick here. So if your buyer has a house that they like, hold on one second. Hey, Cleo, can you mute the TV, please? Thank you. So your buyer has a property they want to make an offer on. Okay, so we download the seller's disclosures, the HOA disclosures from the paperclip. Now, the other trick that we can do to make our lives just a little bit easier is Form Simplicity button is right here. We all see that right there. Form Simplicity. So if we click it, it'll take you automatically to Form Simplicity from the MLS. It's already got all the information in here, the address, the PID, the part, the legal description. So we save it to a transaction. Bam, 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 like we did earlier. And we just save it to a new transaction. And then I can download everything in here like I did earlier, like from this. So I added the transaction. For whatever reason, it never uploads the as is. Why? Essentially, this is just going to be like a little quicker than starting it from scratch because it's already going to auto-populate the information. So we'll go back into the as-is contract. You'll see a little bit of a difference here. So it's already got the address, the county, the PID, and the legal description plugged in here for us. Just made our lives just a little bit easier. All right. Now, we need to find the seller's name. Anybody have a guess of where do we find the seller's name?
In the MLS?
Yeah, in the MLS. So if you scroll down here, it'll have the owner's name down here at the bottom of the listing. So just going back, we're just using the MLS listing for all of our information. It says owner, and it's got their name right here. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to go to seller, paste it. And then my buyer, John Doe. Pretty simple. All right. So this part here is already filled out. This is just the address, the county, PID, the legal description. Now, if you can't find this information, if it's for some reason, not on the MLS or whatever, we're going to use IMAP. Where is IMAP? They changed the logo on me. IMAP. Anybody ever use IMAP before? So IMAP will take us to basically the public records and we can see all the information, right? We've got the PID, the address, the owner's names, the legal description. We've got taxes. We've got permits. We've got square footage. You've even got flood zone codes down here. And you can change it to the flood zone map to see where the flood zone's running through. So we use IMAP to find this information here if we don't have it readily available. All right, moving on. Any questions up top? Simple so far? Okay. Personal property. So anytime your buyer is wanting something specifically that is not the house itself, they need to put it in a personal property items included in this purchase. And this is not, and they have all this stuff right here, right? So this stuff here is already included in the sale, right? So ranges, ovens, refrigerators, dishwashers, disposals, ceiling fans, light fixtures, drapery rods, garage door openers, thermostats, doorbells, televisions, television mounting hardware, that kind of stuff. Television is not actually included. just the television wall mounts and the television mounting hardware. The television itself is personal property. So let's say your buyer goes, yeah, I really want that 90-inch TV. You would have to put 90-inch TV in living room. Let's say your buyer says, hey, I really want that pool table out back. Uh, blue and green pool table out back. Or they want that leather couch. Or, oh, a big one that we usually miss. This one will be I can't tell you how many washers and dryers I've had to pay for because I missed it. Washer and dryer. If your client really wants the washer and dryer, make sure you put it in the contract. Okay, because that's not included up here, right? Refrigerators, ranges, ovens, dishwashers, ceiling fans, all that stuff is included, but the washer and dryer are not included. So if your client wants it, make sure you put it right here in this section. Any questions about personal property? Okay. Now, if you're representing the seller and you got an offer, you want to keep an eye out, you want to make sure that anything that's not included, like the washer and dryer or a chandelier. Like one time I had somebody, my buyer was purchasing a home and the seller had like this like $50,000 chandelier, like a family heirloom. And my buyer thought it was really cool. And they're like, wow, this is going to be awesome. Crazy chandelier. But they put the seller, when they sent us the counter offer, they put chandelier in, dining room. I think it was like a hallway, or not a hallway, but a entrance. So this means that it's excluded, right? The following items are excluded from the purchase: chandelier and dining room. So just keep an eye out for that. But anything personal goes here. Any questions about personal property being included or excluded? All right. Keep an eye out for the washer and dryer. That's the biggest one that's gotten me over the course of my career. I've had to pay for a few of those. All right. Purchase price. Purchase price. Pretty simple. What do they want to offer? Bam. 400,000. Now, initial deposit. So this is the escrow payment. Everyone knows what an escrow payment is. That is a good faith deposit or earnest money deposit or escrow deposit. That is typically either $1,000 or 1% of the purchase price. So if we were going to say 1%, we would say this is $4,000. Now, if you're representing the buyer, your job is to get them the best, safest contract possible. So just go for 1,000. Now, if you're competing with other people on this offer, you might want to up this escrow. But if you're the only person who's making an offer on this property, then for your buyer, try to keep this escrow payment as low as possible. Typically $1,000. Now, this escrow payment is usually to be made within 3 days of this contract being signed by both parties. Now, what we're going to see in the contract a lot is this: if left blank, then something. Always a safe bet. If you see if left blank, then blank, just go ahead and fill that in there. Always, it's usually a safe bet. So if you're unsure, if left blank, then put what it says. Understood? Now, the escrow agent's name, we're also going to find that on the MLS. So we scroll down, and they are using Land Title Professionals, Amy Bueller. So here's all the information for the closing agent. So we would just copy that one by one. I'm not going to, I guess I will. I'm going to copy that one by one, Amy Bueller. We're going to put the address in here, the email address, the phone number, and we're going to make sure all of that information for the title company is in there, right? Their address, their phone number, their email. Now, I only have 10 minutes
Question.
left. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. So it says that you said that they're gonna be able to do that deposit within 3 days of this offer going through, or like the seller has, like, as a seller, right? I'm thinking as a seller, if something comes through and they give me like that escrow within 3 days or whatever, um effective date. you just highlighted that. What does it mean?
Yes. So I think I know where your question's going,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I wanted to wait to hear it. But so the 3 days starts on the effective date. So only once the contract has been signed and
Gotcha.
delivered to all
Oh,
parties, that becomes day zero. So if I was a listing agent and you and Becky,
mhm,
you were the buyer's agent and you sent an
mhm,
offer, it doesn't matter really when you send it. I mean, it does for time of acceptance, which we'll get to next, but
mhm.
it doesn't really matter when you send it for the escrow. It only matters when your clients have signed it, my clients have signed it, and it's been delivered to both parties.
Got
So
you.
that's
Okay.
that first day that you have it and I have it signed and executed by both parties. That is day zero.
Got you.
The
Okay.
next day is day one. The next day is day two. The next day is day three.
Okay. Got
And
it.
these are rolling days. However, if it falls on a holiday or a weekend, then it rolls over to the next business day.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes. All right. So we fill out all this information with the title company. Um, Typically, we don't do additional deposits. You might see that every once in a while. I've maybe done one or two in my whole career, so I typically don't have my clients make additional escrow deposits. Financing expresses a dollar amount. Um, so who here knows if there was if your buyer was an FHA buyer, how much would they be financing? Anybody know? 96.5%, right? Because 3.5% down means they are financing 96.5%. So if I plug that in here, bam, it automatically calculates it for me. 4,000, 1,000, 96.5%. That means the buyer needs to come to closing with $13,000. And that is just their down payment. That is not their closing cost. So closing costs are separate and they're going to be more. That is just their down payment minus the escrow. All right, time for acceptance of offer and counter offers. Typically, when I'm working with a buyer and we're making an offer, I say, let's give the seller 48 hours. And if they don't accept, then, our offer is done. Closing date, always play it safe, right? We know that it usually takes 30 to 45 days to close a deal. So don't give them exactly 30 days because then you're setting yourself up for failure. Give yourself more like 40 days. So today's December 4th. So 30 days would be a Saturday anyway. So we're just going to say we'll go Friday, January 10th, right? That gives us a few extra days past 30 days to get this deal closed. Any questions here out of all this? Okay, moving on. Occupancy and possession. If the property is leased, currently has a tenant in there, then you need to make sure you check this box. So this property is subject to leases or occupancy after closing. So you need to check with the seller, make sure there's no tenants and no lease agreements on the property. Assignability. Typically what you're going to put here is may not assign this contract. See, it says if no box is checked, then buyer may not assign this contract. So you're always safe putting if, then, whatever that answer is. The financing section. This contract is contingent. So if it was cash, you would check this. It's not cash, it's FHA. So this contract is contingent upon within, if left blank, then 30 days after the effective date, buyer obtaining an approval of a FHA mortgage loan for purchasing of the property for a fixed adjustable rate in the loan amount. And I leave this one blank because it says if left blank, then prevailing rate based upon buyer's credit worthiness. And for a term of if left blank, then 30, put 30. We have another if left blank down here and put 5. I don't want to go into too much detail because you guys aren't going to remember everything I say anyways. But if you remember anything, don't try not to leave any blanks. And anytime something says if left blank, then blank, put that information in there. Moving on. Any questions here?
Um, are cash financing usually done quicker, like when it comes to like closing date and stuff like that? I think that's
Yes.
what I. How
Yes,
you how long is it?
cash can close usually in as little as like 7 to 10 days.
For real?
Yes,
Nice.
because they're just
Okay.
waiting on, there's no lender or anything like that. It's just the title company.
Mm-hmm.
So it just matters how fast the title company can move.
Got you. Okay, okay.
All right. Here, we're not going to put anything in here, but we do have it if left blank. So put 15. Safe bet. If you see something, a blank, put NA. Just so nobody sneaks anything in there that you don't see. 15, if left blank, then 15, put 15. Uh, this one is seller shall designate closing agent. So in Florida, in most parts of Florida, sellers going to designate, they're going to choose the title company and pay for the title company's charges and policies and all that kind of stuff. So just check this first box here. We're not in Miami, so you don't need to worry about this. Um, home warranty. So if you want to negotiate with the seller to pay for your buyer's home warranty, this is where you would put it. HWA is a good home warranty of America. And you just put, $700 here, and the seller's going to pay for it. Or, you put N not applicable, not applicable, N/A, and you put NA, N/A. But try to negotiate for your buyer to get a free home warranty. This one down here, special assessment, same thing, right? It says if neither box is checked, then option A shall be deemed selected. So select option A. And we're moving fast because I'm running out of time here. We got another if left blank, so we're going to put 20. It says if left blank, then 20, put 20. Now pay attention to this next part. So this is the inspection period. It says if left blank, then 15. However, it's typical in today's market for the inspection period to be 7 to 10 days. 15 is sort of unusually high in this market. Um, Basically, what this does is this gives the buyer the right to cancel for any reason whatsoever. They don't even have to explain why, and get their escrow back, right? That $1,000. Now, if they cancel outside of this, then they will most likely lose their escrow if they cancel outside of 10 days. And then the next few excuse me, the next few pages are mostly just disclosures. So we got disclosure, 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 disclosure. There's just a lot of disclosures here. If your buyer ever asks you any questions, just say, I'm not an attorney, but I can read it with you and read it word for word. Now, when there's any addenda that go along, these are like the riders and stuff that go along with the contract. For example, we have the HOA, the FHA. You probably will have like a lead-based paint and maybe a sale of buyer's property. I'm just going to check the most common ones here. Those are the most common, maybe sometimes that one. So anytime there's a rider or an addendum, you want to make sure you get these checked in here too. And then those will be included with the offer. Now, additional terms, and I only have 1 minute left, guys. So I'm going to fly through this real quick. And then if you want, what I'll do is I'll send a new link through Zoom. That way you can ask questions if you'd like. But additional terms here, try to stay away from additional terms. Don't put too much information in there because the more you put in there, the more you can mess this contract up. I had an agent last year, they messed up one word in this additional terms and they absolutely, screwed up the whole deal for their client. So just be careful. Make sure you double check it. Make sure you call legal hotline anytime you're going to add information or additional terms. But most oftentimes what you'll see is, seller agrees to pay buyer's closing costs of $10,000, stuff like that. All right, guys, I'm going to send a new link through Zoom real quick so that way we can get through any questions. Okay. So just bear with me and then rejoin.